What's the most important resource that you have? If you really thought about this deeply, I think you'd come to the same conclusion that Joey and I did. It's time. In our newest book, What's Without Wall Street, the 3 Steps to Financial Freedom Through Passive Income, we talk about how are we tracking that time? What is the thing that we can do to get more of that time back?
That's right. If you've ever been listening to our podcast and thought, man, it would be amazing if I could take all the things that you guys have learned over the last 10 years and just summarize them, put them in some way to easily digest them and take action, that's what this book is all about. You're not going to want to miss it. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/new book and get your copy today. Wealth Without Wall Street Tribe. So glad to introduce you today, Mr. Ryan Dossey. Ryan, glad to have you on the show.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Ryan, I'm looking forward to a very entertaining, intriguing, as well as conversation. I think maybe some people are going to want to know what your answers are to some of these questions. Like, is home flipping dead in 2024? How would you respond to that?
If you told me home flipping is dead, I would tell you you don't flip houses. I mean, it's, there's public perception and then there's reality. And, reality is people are still buying, people are still selling.
Well, okay, because I wondered that. I mean, just from a perspective, though, like if someone who's recently built a house, construction prices have doubled, tripled. Obviously, interest rates to buy a house have significantly increased. So you have maybe more supply, but my assumption is that the demand is lower. So are you seeing those as issues, or are those just issues in certain segments?
Good question. Like, real estate's always going to be hyper local, right? I'm sure there's some markets that just suck to be in right now. I'm in 11 on the franchise side, and I've got coaching like mastermind students in like 100 other markets around the country. If your house sucks and is overpriced, yeah, nobody wants to buy it right now. If your place is cute, it's remodeled, it's been well taken care of, and it's priced appropriately, that stuff is still selling.
Okay, good. Well, I want to talk about the franchise model. You mentioned that. I don't think we've had anybody come on and talk about home flipping from a franchise standpoint. But first, before we do that, let's take us back to the beginning. How in the world did you get into home flipping to start off with?
Yeah, fair question. I wish I had some very educated answer to it. I'm a car guy, always have been. I can tell you at night what the car is 3 cars behind me based off their headlights. And I remember being at a job I hated, making about $23K a year pre-tax, and Googling how do people afford Lamborghinis, and landed on real estate. So that was literally what kind of got me into this whole thing.
Amazing. So what was your next step after that? Like, you just, because real estate is obviously wild, wide world of crazy opportunities. How did you land on flipping specifically?
Good question. So I started out wholesaling. So at the time I had good credit and I had no money. So I stumbled on this concept of wholesaling, which is effectively you find a good deal, you find somebody that wants to buy it, and you build in a chunk in the middle. That's actually like my number one piece of advice to anybody that's not where they want to be financially. You have to start to do something where you can get paid based off of the value you're generating, not the hours you throw in. So I started out wholesaling, which meant I started out going direct to seller, looking for off-market deals. If I'm being honest, I'm probably more of a real estate marketer than I am a real estate entrepreneur. I don't care about houses. Like, what's one more at this point? But what I do really enjoy is, can I come up with new ways, better ways, cheaper ways to get more deals more frequently at scale? So partnered with a coworker at the time. We threw, I put $3,000 I couldn't afford to pay off on a credit card without telling my wife, and paid for a direct mail campaign, got our first deal under contract, did absolutely everything wrong, just took stupid action, ended up selling that place to somebody else. And we made right at $10,000 in the middle of that transaction. So at the end of that, I mean, I was literally looking at a check for what would have been 6 months of my life that collectively took a couple hours. And I was like, there's something here. So that was kind of my initial baptism by fire, if you will.
So in that process, you mentioned you're a car guy. So you're working like in a mechanic side, or are you on the sales side? What was that?
I was trying not to answer this. I sold car warranties back in the day.
Okay.
So,
So you're a sales guy.
like pre-American Greed, I forced myself to be a salesperson and I hated it.
Okay.
So I'm not your, ask for the money, beat the little old lady up, ask her again till she gives up. Like, I did it. So I didn't graduate high school. I had my first full-time job at 17 and it was doing this. I did it out of necessity and I was really good at it early on. My first year, I made around 100K at like 17. My parents were like, this can't be legal. I was like, I don't know. Like I go into an office with a bunch of other adults, the youngest person there by far. My performance level kind of stayed the same, but they made it harder and harder and harder to make money. So my wife and I had this weird thing of we got married young, had a lot of money, and then or when we were dating, had a bunch of money. And then as we got married, it got harder and harder to hit bonus, make commission and stuff. So ended up in this like, okay, I've got money on a credit card that I can't pay off. This is new for me. What's a budget? Like, how does this work? So it was kind of opposite of, I think, how a lot of couples start out.
So you went from like having a lot of success and obviously going from $100,000 of income. And you mentioned when you started looking into this, you're making like a fourth of that.
Yep. Yeah. So similar level of sales, just they changed commission structures. I think it was that. And I just started to get tired of it. Like I didn't believe in it anymore. I didn't like what I was selling. Everybody that was around me was like on drugs, out of prison, like just real rough. I mean, it was very much a Wolf of Wall Street style environment. So yeah, I was very much looking for something different and realizing like, this isn't what I want to do with my life.
But talk about, you went from wholesaling as your first step into obviously getting into flipping. What did that transition look like? And how many did you do like early on?
Yeah, good question. So I started 10 years ago. So I started right in like 2014. It was like we wholesaled a couple properties, used the cash we had built up to buy a couple rentals, me and kind of the same coworker. We did it kind of as a side hustle until 2016. My wife got accepted to University of Indianapolis to get her doctorate. We went out there and business partner and I kind of parted ways. He was back in St. Louis. I was in Indianapolis. Didn't really make sense for me to do deals and pay him and vice versa. We weren't really helping each other anymore. So I went full time at that point. That was 2016. That year was brutal. I did 6 deals. I had $3,000 to my name when I went full time and $3K a month in bills. So it was very much bootstrapped. There was a lot of stuff I was doing wrong. I would say my average profit per deal back then was like 3 to 6K, and it was costing me 3K to get a deal, and my bills were 3K a month. So ended up that I was carrying a pretty decent balance on credit cards, and very much like well, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't fun. So that was 2016. That was kind of when I went full time. 2017 though was when things got a lot better. So that year we did 74 off-market deals, and that was a mix of wholesales, and flips.
Whoa! So 6 to 70, that's a big jump. What was the?
Yep.
What were those clicking points? Was it just time in the business? What happened that helped you go 10x?
Yeah, so I read 10x by Grant Cardone, but I didn't have the balls to set the goal to do 60. So I was like, I'll do 50 deals. So it was like, I'm like 8.5x. And then I also had read the book Miracle Morning, and I started to reverse engineer what I wanted and set actionable milestones to get there. So instead of just I show up, I go through the motions, I hope I get a deal, it was, okay, my typical cost to get a deal is $3,000 worth of marketing. If I want to do 50 deals, I need to spend $150,000 in marketing. How I broke it out in my mind was there was 52 weeks in the year. And if I did a deal a week, I would roughly be there. So I started dropping effectively $3,000 a week in marketing, which, to be blunt, I didn't have. See previous conversation of credit card balances. But it started to snowball. So it got to this point that I actually had to scale back my marketing because there was too many opportunities. And that was how I exceeded what would have been the 10X, even though I didn't set the goal for it. I also hired a business coach that really pushed me on revenue generating activities. See previous conversation of like, don't like sales, don't like that process, was really helpful to kind of have that accountability of like, what did you do right now to make sure you're getting paid next week? And in real estate, there's this like 45 to 90 day lag between the action I take today and the check I get 2 months from now. So like we literally had a weekly call and it was like, did you earn your income for next month? There were some weeks that it was like, bro, I did a lot of busy work, but I didn't make no offers. I didn't do no marketing. I didn't do no follow-up. Like that's the least sexy part of the business. So started marketing consistently, whether I felt like it or not. And then the other thing I did, I called a buddy of mine, Frank McGovern out of Philly, was always posting these just like fat deals on Facebook in these groups I was in. And I called him. I was like, dude, I'm making like 3K a deal. How are you ripping 20, 30, 50, 100K? Like, and Frank's answer was, you're a little bitch. And I was like, that's not helpful. That doesn't feel nice. And he's like, no, the reason you only make 3K, that's all you think you're worth. It's no harder to make 10K or 20K. You just don't have the balls for it. Got off the phone and I was like, well, Frank's a dick. Like that wasn't helpful. But my next deal, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. So instead of shooting for this 3 to 5K, I shot for 10 and I hit it. And it was like, wait a minute. I can do the same amount of deals and make twice as much money. Okay. So long-winded answer, but that was kind of the 10X playbook there.
So in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to take massive risk and bet money that you don't have. Is that basically what you're saying?
I think if you grew up middle class, lower middle class, don't have savings, didn't really know how to use money, and you're going to bootstrap it, like, yeah, there are going to definitely be some like burn the ships moments that aren't pleasurable. Knowing what I know now, like this was pre-YouTube University, pre-podcasts being huge. This was like, you know, some forums that were poorly run type of days. Like I believe the learning curve for folks now, even in real estate, is so much less. That really is my goal with the content I put out. Like I am that resource I was looking for when I just started. I've done it all wrong. I can tell you what not to do so you don't have to learn those lessons. So to answer that question, man, I probably could have self-funded a lot better if I knew what I know now, had access to the resources and tools that exist now. I really don't think that it would have been nearly as brutal as what I went through.
So, Trav, we're going to ask Ryan as many of those questions to figure out what he knows now and the problems that he's made in the past that he wouldn't have you make. And we're going to put all of that under what'swhatwallstreet.com/create cash flows. That way, if it doesn't get on this podcast, we're going to make sure that Ryan drops to some of those resources onto that page. So don't forget, after the show or right now, go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/create cash flow to get this resource. So Ryan, I want to kind of dive into what you're doing now and more importantly, why did you get to doing that? So you talked about a franchise in the home flipping space specifically. Why franchising this model?
Yeah, good question. I feel like I have to lay the groundwork a little bit better. So we own a direct mail business. We've got robots that hold pens and handwrite in cursive. That's our number one source of deals. It's ballpointmarketing.com. The other problem we ran into is you do a lot of marketing. You drop $150,000 worth of marketing, you're going to get some phone calls. So we started Call Porter back in 2016. It's callporter.com. They've handled the vast majority of all of my inbound calls for the past, 8 years. Prior to Call Porter existing, it existed. It was just my own internal employees. And then I started doing it for friends and stuff. So I was really big on, I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to mastermind. I didn't want to sell courses. I've always been I want to help people that have the dream. I don't want to sell it. Right? I see ads from people in the space that literally make me want to throw up in my mouth. It's like, you can do this with no risk, no credit, no time. Just pay me $9.95. It's like, I know from doing this, it's it's been risky. It's been stressful. It's taken blood, sweat, and tears. It's taken credit. It's taken connections. It's taken the ability to raise capital, right? Like this isn't easy. So it wasn't, I started in 2014. I didn't start coaching anybody until 2019. Really wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing. It worked. We ran a pilot group. I think it was 8 people, just like on Zoom, and they all got results. So we formalized it kind of into what it is today. The reason for the franchise, like I kind of mentioned, I got to the point that it was, what's one more deal? What's another house? What's another flip? Like, yeah, it's money coming in, but it was really no longer fun or challenging. I hit all of my goals. Like I did the stuff I wanted to do. I bought the Ferrari. I bought the McLaren. I did the car rallies. I took the trips. I built the warehouse that I worked out of with the float tank and the cold plunge and parked my cars in the center of it. And it got really dangerous I've checked all the boxes and where do I go from here? I feel like that's when a lot of us get into trouble. I then started looking around like, what am I not happy with in my life? what can I complain about versus where do I want to go? So what led me to kind of the franchise model, we actually ran into an issue in our direct mail business where we were outsourcing our bookkeeping, we were outsourcing our media buying, we were outsourcing our sales team, and we were paying all of these consultants crazy amounts of money. And starting to realize like, we might do 600K in a month and there's nothing left over in profit. And I'm like, this math isn't mathing. This is a lot of risk for zero reward. And I learned the hard way the importance of operations, of all of the back end. So historically, what we've taught is the front end, right? I'll teach you how to find deals. I'll teach you how to hire. I'll give you job descriptions, comp plans. I'll get you on appointments with people in your market that want to sell at a discount. And for a lot of people, like that's it. That's all they need. What I realized though, is in the real estate space, you have a lot of people that they're doing deals. They're quote unquote making money. But there's nothing left. Like there's the story they tell themselves about the business. And then there's I'm always 1 or 2 deals away from success, but that success never comes because the operations aren't dialed. So simplest terms, what I mean by that. Most investors, most business owners don't do what I call an autopsy. So I go into a flip and I have my projections, what I think I'm going to make. For hundreds of deals, at the end of that deal, I'd get my check back. I'd be a little disappointed and I'd think, well, I just got to do better on the next one. But I wouldn't stop to look at why. Did I go over budget on my construction? Did I sit on the property too long? Did my holding costs eat up my profitability? Did my contractor buy materials that didn't go to my job on my dime and bill it back to this project? Did I not account for closing costs? There's all of these simple levers we can pull that I wasn't pulling. And we learned really the value through our direct mail business of A, doing our own bookkeeping, and then B, auditing every decision we're making for, did this pan out the way I thought it would? And if it didn't, what lesson did I learn? What am I implementing into my calculators to make sure that never happens again? So the real drive for the franchise for me, and I'm a co-founder in it, my other co-founder in it's named Mitch Caluzzi. For both of us, really, it's just to do good business with good people. I'm a big fan of shared experience. My hobbies tend to be risky. So sport bikes, race cars, paragliding. I can connect with somebody that rides sport bikes instantly because we both know what it feels like to be tucked into a sport bike at 150 miles an hour somewhere you're not supposed to be going that fast. Flip side, with an investor, I can really connect with them deeply if I'm involved at this level. Like I know what their hopes and dreams are going into the deal. And I know if we're on track for that, I know how it pans out. And if we missed, we're helping course correct to make sure that doesn't happen. The community aspect in it is really, really cool.
Tribe, listen up. We're entering into the election year. This is the time where people are going to get super fearful. We're going to see businesses start to dry up. We're going to see opportunities, though, pile up for us only if we're prepared.
That's right. You get to choose right now. Will you allow this time frame to negatively affect you in your business and your investments? Or will you be prepared to take advantage of these huge opportunities that come on the backside of this because you're prepared with cash?
Let's get our house in order. If you haven't already maximized the infinite banking concept in your life, here's the chance for you to start learning. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/IBC. Take our free webinar so that you can start getting equipped with the things that you need to know so that you can take action on this looming event.
Ryan, I love the whole concept there, what you put together. I'd love to break down some of the components of this, like what this franchise model looks like. But the bigger question in my brain that I'm sure like the people in our community, in our movement at Wealth Without Wall Street are looking for ways to create passive income. Does the franchise model lend itself to that person who, let's say they've been doing 5 to 10 deals a year and they're just like, man, this is a lot of work. I'm having to do it. This is an active business. There's nothing passive about this. Is there anything about this model that allows them to potentially make this more passive?
Yeah, good question. 100%. So in the franchise, we do all of the media buying. So we pay for the direct mail, the Facebook ads, the TV, the radio, the SEO. We cover all of those costs. We also are hiring a real estate agent that runs all their appointments with them, comps out all their projects, helps with all the analysis. Our own tools we've built, we just basically fill in the blanks. What's this stuff going to cost? We pull data from their QuickBooks account to make sure we're going off of actuals, not hypotheticals. Our internal team of qualifiers, it's separate from call porter. Call porter is our backup. Takes the calls, screens for equity, motivation, condition, books the appointment for the franchisee. They're then confirming that appointment the day of to make sure that person's going to show up. Our agent we've hired for them is running that appointment with them. Our system is spitting out what they should pay for it, what the options are for that seller. E-signing and everything is built in there. We're working on the fund aspect currently. So the ability to also fund these projects if they're tight on cash or something. And then they effectively just do the project. So if somebody's a franchisee, they're not doing the media buying, they're not taking the calls, they're not trying to find the leads. We're responsible for that. Effectively, an appointment shows up on their calendar. They go on the appointment. They punch into the system what the scope of work is going to be, what's it going to cost. They make the offer, they get the offer done, and they simply do the project. So it is a lot less work. That's one reason we're focusing so much on the community. Like, somebody that's making 100, 200K a year, busting their tail. Okay, I kind of know that guy. What if I take that same person though, and I'm able to get them to 3, 4, 5, 6, 800, a million a year, but they're only having to go run a couple appointments a week? How do I make sure that person doesn't self-destruct or implode or do dumb things with that money? Hence kind of the focus on the community there.
All right. So I want to get into what makes you guys different. Because I think you kind of alluded to this early on, how the marketing of this space kind of disgusted you. And I know you have a real focus to make your company different from those. But before we do that, I want to answer the question for the person listening. How do I know if I would be a good franchisee? How do I know if I would be a good home flipper? Because we were talking about all this risk. We're talking about, the initiative action taker, right? Being willing to just go out on the limb and just trust yourself. How do I know, though, if I don't have that experience, that I'll be good at that? And are you helping me vet that if I come to you?
Yeah, good question. So one, minimum requirements to work with us. You have to have been a part of 20 transactions where you were the decision maker. Those could be flips, those could be wholesales, those could be rentals, those could be wholesale deals. We're not set up to cover the basics of what does equity mean? This is not a make money opportunity for the general public. The other person we'll take, though, is a contractor. So we've found we're doing a lot of the real estate investor stuff with the marketing, with the screening, with the agent comping it out. really just need somebody reliable to punch in what this is going to cost, how long it's going to take, that sort of information. So have to have done 20 deals. And then you got to be bankable. Like one of the things we focus on is getting our guys off of hard money and onto local community banking relationships, able to cut some of these cost of capital in half. That's a lot of money that goes to their bottom line without them even doing another deal. And then there has to be some liquidity, right? You have to be able to afford to buy places or put down payments with banks and stuff like that. So it is a little bit more somebody who's probably a little bit further in the journey. Like I wouldn't have qualified for our franchise when I was just starting out or even back in 2016. That being said, I 100% would have been one of our franchisees in 2017 if this existed.
Ryan, thanks for breaking down exactly kind of how that works. But talk to us about your specific differentiator in the marketplace as the industry as a whole. When a franchisee gets access to your process, what are they going to the public with? What do those offers look like whenever they're sitting across from those appointments that you've made for them?
Yeah, super good question. So we believe there's a lot of junk in the space. There's a lot of bad operators. I blame a lot of the influencers with the make money with no risk type content. So kind of our goal is through the action of our business, we clean up the real estate space as a whole. And that's investors, that's agents, that's kind of all of just the bad actors across the board. So what we do with sellers that's different, it's no pressure, it's no haggling, and it's no BS. So when we go meet with a seller, they get 3 options from us. One is our cash offer, and they're going to get our best offer right out the gate. Doesn't go up, doesn't go down. It is what it is. The second option is with that agent we've hired for that operator, we have the ability to list their house on the market for them as is without them doing any repairs, work, or upgrades. And then the third option is what we call fix to list. So we'll actually finance the cost of some repairs, carry that cost to closing to get them a higher valuation on exit. So our system effectively spits out, these are the 3 options. These are the pros and cons. These are the timelines. And this is what we estimate that you'll net out based off of our experience in the space. So it's very educational. Something else we do that's totally different, our offers have 0 contingencies in them. So if I tell a seller I'm buying their house, I'm not doing inspections, I'm not doing walkthroughs, I'm not trying to find somebody else to buy it. That's a done deal. So the goal really is we do what we say we're going to do. It's educational for the sellers. Whether they do business with us or not, we want them to be informed. So if some agent comes out and tells them they can get 150% of what their house is worth, they know that's BS and they know why, because they've met with us.
So won't we do an exact example of that? So let's just assume Joey
Sure.
has raised his hand and said, I'm interested in the mailer that you've given, and you're coming to talk to Joey, and we'll just assume that you have assessed Joey's house at, 150,000 as is. Have that conversation with Joey just so I can better understand it as the listener to what that would look like.
So 10,000 foot view, we run the appointment. Within 24 hours, we're calling Joey to walk him through all of his options. And we're not asking for a decision on that call. It's completely educational. So it goes something to the effect of, Joey, I really appreciate taking the time to meet with me yesterday at 123 Main Street. As I mentioned yesterday, got home, kind of put pen to paper, walked through the condition of the property, and I've got your options to go over with you here. So option number 1, if we're going to buy this place for cash, I'm coming in at $80,000. Option number 2, if we take your house and list it on the market as it sits, I think we can probably get about $115,000 on the market. After we subtract everything out, you're probably going to net on that around $95,000 to $105,000, depending on what comes up on inspection. Third option I've got for you here, if we do that roof the place really needs, if we clean out the garage full of stuff, and we replace your HVAC system, I think we really can get that $150,000 you mentioned you think the house is worth. However, on that, those costs are going to come out to X with, holding times, closing costs, agent commissions, and everything. you're probably going to net around $117,000, and that process is going to take 3 to 4 months. So if you just want to be done with it, we're looking at that 80K. If you want to put it on the market, we can totally facilitate that for you. That process is probably going to take 45 to 60 days. We think you might get 10 to 15K more if you go that route. And then third option would be if we kind of come in and fix these odds and ends. You're free to do that, do those repairs yourself. With our connections, though, we think we can get them done better at a lower cost with the permits pulled and all that good stuff. So let me know which way you want to go. We're here whenever you decide.
And do you see that people tend to choose one of the 3 options more often than not?
Good question. We have about a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every cash purchase we get, we'll get a listed as is for me or a fixed to list opportunity. We've had lately a lot of places that start out as an as is or a fixed to list that before like we're even on the market come to us and just say, hey, will you just buy the dang thing from me? It's actually not worth me jumping through the hoops. I don't want people walking through my house or my stuff's in it. The other thing we often have happen is somebody will go the as it sits route. We'll get the property on the market. The inspection comes back and the HVAC system is busted. And hey, it's $7,500. Well, we can then fix to list that opportunity, even though we've already listed it. Hey, Mr. Seller, in order to get this thing across the finish line, I'll go ahead and do the work. I'll go ahead and carry the cost of that to closing, so you're not coming out of pocket at all. So it really is kind of we're through the transaction with them if we're not just buying it cash. But the cool thing is, as an investor, I always had that fear. If I buy Joey's house for 80K and I turn around and list it for 115, is he going to be upset? Well, in our process, I'm literally telling Joey, hey man, based off of your situation, this is the best option for you. Please go this route. Well, Joey's like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just be done with it. Okay, that's totally fine. I can pay you that cash. I want you to know though, I'm going to try to sell it for that 115 to try to at 95 and hopefully make about $15,000. So when Joey goes and sees his house on the market, we've had really cool feedback from sellers where they're like, man, I hope you get that. Awesome.
Well, that's a completely different way of doing it. I like kind of, you said, the CarMax model for buying and selling houses. But in the end, no matter how you guys buy them, your ultimate objective is to do the improvements and do the fix to list, whether or not the homeowner is involved in that process or not. That's the ultimate goal, correct?
You know, in theory, we probably make the most money that way. In actuality, like, we're trying to establish our franchisees as pillars in their local market. So we're market exclusive. I'm not taking 2 guys in one market. So if I take somebody in Indianapolis, I'm getting them plugged into local community government. They know all the people. They're not the guy screwing the rules. They're the guy playing by the rules and asking the rule setters how they can help, right? So the reputation of being educational and reliable is way more important to us than getting paid, because we're not in this for a year or 2 years till the next shiny thing comes around. We're planning on being in this space indefinitely. So I have plenty of reviews where we didn't even buy the person's house, but we have a 5-star review from them just based off of our process and what they learned. So our ultimate goal is whatever Joey's goal is when he reaches out is what he gets done with that $150,000 house. Obviously, we're in this business to make money, but we're more in this business to have an impact in the community. One of the things we do at corporate, we take a percentage of every project that gets done in all of our locations, and that goes into a community give back fund. So if I go meet Joey and he's like, man, I got to sell this house because I don't have HVAC, I can't afford to fix it, and I'm dying. It's, we're in, middle of August, right? Well, instead of me buying Joey's house, Joey has some money but can't afford to go anywhere because his credit sucks and he's been there forever. I can come in as a sold fast operator, give me a call and say, hey man, I've got a give back I want to do. And we reach out to Joey and say, hey man, we're actually not going to buy your house because logically, I don't know where you could afford to go. With rates being what they are, your credit being shot, the fact you're no longer employed, you're retired, whatever. I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix your HVAC. I want nothing in return, man. I just want to help you out. You start to do those sorts of projects in a market, and next time Joey's hanging out with one of his other buddies and the guy mentions, man, I just inherited my dad's place. He was a hoarder. It's trash. I don't know what to do. Joey's like, I got the guys. So it really is like, we do things like that. We do things like on our flips. If we took a really bad property and turned it around, we'll do a block party and invite everybody out to come walk through the house, see what we did, blow up houses, cook out. Like it's very much designed to, we are local pillars in the markets we're in, being kind of that driving force for change in the cities we're in.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, integrity sells. At the end of the day, there's a reason that God calls us to be lights in a dark place, because it's so easy to stand out whenever you live and act in an integral way to the community and to people's lives. So that's really, really inspiring that you guys do that. And it makes it easy to be in a business that, you know, just hearing your story, looking back on those first days that you were not really wanting to even talk about, because you're like, man, it just felt slimy, right? It felt slimy to sell this car warranty, but now you can live in integrity doing what you're doing now. So, man, it's just a really cool transformation to hear what you shared. Ryan, thank you so much for being willing to come on today, share this strategy. We've never covered something like this before. And if for people, obviously you're going to put stuff on wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/create cash flow. But we'd love to have your contact information there and any other places that you would like to connect with our audience.
Yeah. So probably the best place for me is Instagram. It's just Ryan C. Dossey. You're going to get like 1/3 business content, 1/3 me having fun, and 1/3 family stuff. But that's where I'm the most active. I respond to DMs and all that there.
That's awesome. Tribe, I hope this has been valuable to you to learn a new strategy, one that will potentially propel you to financial freedom. If you found value, please like, rate, review the podcast. Help us to beat the big tech algorithm and continue to help others get on their path to financial freedom. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.